Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Embodied. So glad you're here. My name is Anne. I am your host. And today I have my first teacher with me on the podcast. Her name is Louise LeBrun, and she's the founder of the WEL-Systems Institute, which started in 1995. And I met Louise in 2006. And I call her my first teacher, and at the time I don't think I would have said that. I didn't know she was becoming my teacher. I didn't know anything about her. And if you've read my story in the books, you know that after meeting her and after coming into her program, the Women in Leadership program, my life has completely changed. I described that day in the program where she with so much grace and confidence and wisdom and presence, help me come home to my body, help me come home to myself. And I learned that day so much about things I wish I'd known as a child. And I wish everybody knew. and it was so transformative, not just for my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, but it showed me the way to my path. And I remembered why I was born. I remembered why I was here, and I wanted to share what I had remembered that day in the program. So forever, Louise will have this role in my life. So after more than 30 years of working with women for accelerated evolution and expression for the leader self, and now easing into full-time retirement, Louise's legacy is the unique and powerful WEL-Systems approach to change. And a community of compassionate, resourceful, and deeply caring women who remain committed to their own evolution. Their engagement with others is the gateway to discovery of their own potential lived. I'm going to say that again because I think that's such a powerful line. Their engagement with each other is the gateway to discovery of their own potential lived. It's so simple in that engagement in authenticity and presence with each other where that potential gets revealed. It's just, to me, that's such a powerful sentence. Always welcoming of a compelling and boundless exploration on any topic that touches the soul, Louise remains both deeply curious and trusting of our collective capacity to create a world that makes way for joy in the daily living of our lives. Louise, welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Anne.
I am so happy that you're here with me, and I'm excited about this conversation because, as you know, the topic this year, this season in the podcast is trust. And that was definitely the journey that you sent me on that day. Maybe you knew it, maybe you didn't, but a journey in learning how to trust that my body knew what it needed. It knew it had access to the truth. My body was on my side. It was never lying to me. That was the beginning of a journey of trust for me. And so I'm really happy that we get to talk about trust today.
Well, I've been at this for a very long time, as you know well. And I was brought up in a world that said my value was directly tied to my intellect. So my ability to be smart and to be logical and analytical and figure things out and have answers. And, there was no value in my curiosity. There was value in my answers. So I learned how to ignore my body. I learned how to allow the compelling I guess I would say, enticements of culture to override whatever was going on in my body, so that I could be in compliance with the acceptable and the appropriate approach to these things. So at a very early age, I learned not to trust my body. And the unfortunate thing is that if you look around, you'll notice the only thing that everybody on the planet has that is exactly the same, regardless of color, creed, geography, doesn't really matter. Everybody has a body. So
Yeah.
I think if everybody has one, it's probably significant in some way, right?
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to be able to learn that my body was an exceptional mechanism to help me to unlearn all the limitations that I had been rewarded for over time, and to find a whole new and far more powerful, in my experience of it, mechanism that would allow me to trust and move much more effectively through my external world. So I think we're very much on the same page. Trust in the body, really.
Like I feel so lucky to know what I know. Because the amount of freedom and access to information, it's something I could not have even fathomed before using my body properly as the device for that movement of information. And so I often like just have so much gratitude for knowing that. Like it makes everything so much more joyful and so much more fun. And it's easier to navigate change. It's easier to navigate chaos because, if we know how powerful our body is, then we know that chaos is just, oh, an invitation. Um, that's life changing, completely life changing. Was there a moment, do you remember like a personal story of when that shifted for you? Like, I'm kind of curious about when was there someone who was your Louise, or was there?
Well, for me, it was a very powerful awakening of the body that was completely propagated in surrender. Really, I was at the point where I had all kinds of gurus in my life. I had gone all over the place and trained with the best and got certified in all kinds of things and read all the books and had the therapies and blah, blah, yada, yada. And I was still nuts. So I must have really been deficient. If I had done all those right things and was still not able to tolerate the agitation in my own body from the life I was living and the way I was living it.
Wow.
So one day, I guess I was approaching 40. I just had this moment where I was so immensely and massively aware of my own frustration that I had done everything that I was told that if I did those things, everything would be great and whatever. And I'd followed all the rules and I had complied and developed mastery and, all that stuff. And I just basically was standing in my bedroom and I was thinking these thoughts and I just had this wave of, I quit. Like I just quit. And in that nanosecond, I fell back on my bed and something happened. And it felt like it went on for a long time, but I'm sure it was just seconds, maybe a couple of minutes. But it was like my body blew wide open. And it was like this shell that my fullness, my potential, my emancipation was caught in this shell. It was like the shell just blew apart. And I had all this energy like shooting out the ends of my fingers and out my toes and out the top of my head. And I realized in a nanosecond that I was not a being of matter. I was a being of energy. And I was a being of light because I was very conscious of that. And there was no content, no story, no go here, go there, no voices, no nothing. Just this realization that I was the life that I was seeking to live. And that as I freed that from that shell, all of a sudden I saw through very different eyes. And then I spent the next 35, 40 years trying to figure out what happened and seeking to position and share information about that experience that would make it possible for others to trust sufficiently to allow that to awaken inside themselves. So that's basically what I did for the next 35 years. And of course, that was a perpetual ongoing evolution. And the message for me that day was really that my body, I think of my physical being, your physical being, as a membrane that sits between the force of creation that I am and the outcome of the intention that I carry as that force of creation. So my body is not the thing. My body is the membrane through which the power of creation ebbs and flows and moves and expresses and presents. And then I create something, I have the experience of it, and then I bring the intelligence of that experience through the membrane of the body into that larger expression of potential. So that potential is always evolving and changing and expanding and always has new ideas, right? Because you create something and then you live the outcome of your creation. And from that, you become more. And as you become more, you create differently. And then you live the outcome of that, etc. And that includes the messes that I make. Like, I'm very capable of, I hold us all as living God forces expressing through tissue into a world of matter. So when I get distracted as a living God force, I can really make a big mess. But the point of the mess is that too is intelligent. So the messes are an invitation for a different line of inquiry or a different context for discovery, but they're equally legitimate. They're not mistakes. There's nothing wrong with the mess I created. The mess I created is telling me something about the force of creation that I am and the quality of its expression. Am I paying attention? Am I not paying attention? Did I get distracted halfway through? Did I change my mind? Whatever it happens to be. But you and I are taught that when we create something that is a mess, we do everything we can to get rid of it.
Yeah. And it's a mistake.
Yeah, we abandon our creations. It's like abandoning your children. It's like your child is born and it has, black hair and brown eyes, and you wanted blonde and green eyed. And so you go, well, not that one. It's like, it's the same idea. The mess that I create is still, it is still mine to cherish.
Yeah.
And it's in the cherishing of it that I become, right?
I think that's really important right now to this aspect that, of the engaging of the information, because I think there's a lot of spiritual bypassing in this world too, where like there's the connection, there's the knowing, there's the brewing, there's the pause, there's the knowing of the truth. But then if there's nothing created out of that, if this is all just this soup, nothing goes forward. Nothing gets to evolve, whether it's a mess or not. Engaging is so important. And I think there's a lot, what I'm hearing also, that there's a lot of frustration and I don't know what to do, because we think we have to do something big and something on the worldly stage or world scale.
Yeah.
But what you just described is what we can do. Like, there's this dance between the God force that moves through and then the actual engagement and the manifestation, and that is life. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I know you're familiar with Bruce Lipton's work and Greg Braden and Nassim Haramein. And I find that, this experience that I had took place a long time ago. I'm 75, so it's been a long time since I've been 40.
Mhm.
So at that time, at the time that this happened in my experience, those voices were not yet present. So Bruce had not written The Biology of Belief, and if Greg may have been doing his travels through ancient cultures around the world, but he was not prevalent. He was not pronounced on the global stage as he is today. And who knows where Nassim was? He was probably skiing somewhere and living out of a van. But today, the scientific reality is very different. And Bruce's work on epigenetics has made it very clear to us that we are not at the mercy of our genes. And that when you combine Bruce's work and Greg's work and Nassim's work, we are actually, it is actually our internal state that shapes our genetic structure. So that our thoughts are shaping our physical reality, including the physical body. So in the work that Nassim talks about, he basically scientifically has evidence that supports that you and I, when I say I am Louise, and I put my hand on my chest and I point to myself, what you see is me pointing to my body. But when I say I am Louise, I am a force of creation that happens to show up in this particular space-time construct through the device of the physical body, because I can't be here without a physical body. So the ultimate, and so therefore, conclusion is that I am the void.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that over time, what I came to understand is that, and I've seen it over and over and over and over in hundreds of women over these many, many decades, where we mess ourselves up is we try to slow down the flow of the intelligence, move it up into the intellect, and try to explain and describe it to ourselves and put language to it. And the minute that we do that, along a continuum of creation, we have gone from this massive flow of information that the body is designed to engage. That's why we have this thing. It's basically the translator between energy and matter. And we take what is a massive potential and we stream it into this little trickle so that we can actually tell a story about it. Where, in my experience of it, the truth of it is my surrender to the body is what allows manifestation to take place. So that I don't, like, the three selves of Huna.
Yeah.
And the way the signal moves in Huna is it moves from the higher self to the lower self. The lower self processes the intelligence and the information. And when the processing is complete, basically the lower self, the body, the construct of the so-called unconscious mind, goes ta-da and presents the outcome of its processing to the middle self or to the intellect to choose. So if the lower self, if my body is filled with trauma and it's filled with lingering stories from my childhood, and it's filled with fear and uncertainty and anger and agitation and all of those things, my body cannot receive the signal from the higher self, because the body processing beyond intellect, beyond language, beyond stories is critical to my ability to actually manifest and create. So first, I have to attend to my body. I have to allow my body to open and expand into all the things I don't want it to. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to be unsure. I don't want the tears. I don't want the rage. I don't want the recognition of the PTSD. I don't want the trauma. I don't want the memories. I don't want any of that stuff. And yet, until I metabolize all of that, the conduit of the message of the creator that I am through the device into material manifestation cannot be processed. So there are lots and lots of people who have great ideas. They have huge intentions. They have, and by huge, I don't necessarily mean global platform. I mean something that is meaningful and rich and fulfilling and significant and brings joy into their lives. They have that. And they never get there because their analytical plan always gets messed up because the body's not in the game. So the first thing, and I think it's the most difficult thing for people to do, is to turn their attention inside themselves and come face to face with what's sitting there waiting for them. And it will always wait. It's immensely patient. It won't get bored and go away, right? Yeah. So you can push it aside for 30 years and then the next day, there it is.
That's the beauty. And I love how you described it. And for me, I remember watching the volcano in Hawaii in 2018, like erupting, and having goosebumps and thinking like, she's not in the way of her expression, and I use that image of, the base as my hips and that the core, like in her lava as my expression. And that if it would be so silly to think that she would control and manage to make sure she doesn't hurt some houses and she doesn't burn anything down. Yet we do that all the time. And we don't do it on purpose. It's a habit through the throat. Like, it's so jammed, especially, in the throat chakra. It's this massive conduit for full expression and capacity, yet it's so sensitive and fragile, and people, that's where it completely stopped. And then it's like, well, I guess no manifestation today, or a tiny bit of myself in this conversation, not all of me.
Well, in the experience that you had way back then at Oceanstone, in the leadership conversation, you would have noticed around the room the degree to which, as the conversation became more provocative and it became more difficult to ignore, as that conversation began to stir the pot and things began to move in the body, there continues to be significant effort to change the subject.
Well, I wanted you to take a break and stop talking for a minute so I could excuse myself and go to the bathroom and maybe not come back in the room, because the pressure in my head and in my body was so great. And the more the women cried, the more the intensity in my body. And they didn't cry disembodied crying. Like, it was water moving, because the conversation was so damn meaningful to each and every one of them.
Yeah. Well, and to me, that is the gift that is relentless pursuit. There is no, those explorations are not measured. They're not, well, we're going to go from here to there, and then when it starts to get messy, we're going to stop so that everybody can regroup. No, we're not. We're going to plow through the messy, because where the genius lies is in the messy. So if you think about what you're describing as that response, your headache, think of that as congestion from a three cells perspective. Think of that as congestion in the higher self. Mm-hmm. Because it has no place to go. So if the body is not receiving and the higher self is perpetually on transmit, it's going to back up, right? So when you actually move and create shifts in the body, that intelligence moves down and into the body and is actually digested in the tissue of the body. So when babies are born, they're not born with language and stories and narratives. They don't come with a preconceived notion of what's okay for them and what's not okay for them. Now, that we could have a whole different conversation about, because in utero, you are absorbing the rules of the reality that your mother lives in. So
Yep.
there is a lot that goes on there. But let's say, for purposes of this conversation, the baby arrives and the baby knows if it wants something, it makes noise. If it wants something, it engages itself in such a way that disrupts its reality, and somebody does something with and for them, so that they don't have to explain. You know, there's no manual, so you're the mother. It's your job to figure it out.
Yeah.
So are they crying because they're too hot, they're too cold, they're hungry, their diapers are wet, they have a tummy ache, whatever it is, right? But they're unapologetic about the expression of that. And the expression of that comes directly through a body response. And then over time, we are taught, do not trust the body. So when you have a sensory cue that says there's intelligence moving, separate yourself from it, observe it, notice the rules that apply for that kind of an observation, and engage in accordance with the rules. And what happens is everything slows down. And as you become an adult and you're faced with a situation that has an intense impact on your body, the first thing you do is separate yourself from the experience of the impact, because you have to think your way through this. When the reality is, when you're in that situation, the impact on the body carries the intelligence.
Yes.
And if you allowed your intellect to get out of the way and relaxed into and were to breathe into what's moving through the body, you would move through that situation at lightning speed.
And I've seen that with my daughter, because she was born a volcano, that's contrary to my son. So she was teaching me the body's capacity to handle that much energy. And so the instinct was to interfere, because my memory was, I don't think I've ever gone there, so I don't know if she'll be safe. But my intuition and the work I've done with you allowed me to breathe into my experience of her blowing up, and then seeing over and over and over her moving tremendous amount of fire through her body to just land and then bounce back and then just go on her day like nothing happened, and I'm the one like on the ground like
Yeah.
And I love that, because it I don't think we know that we can move that much intensity, because maybe we were never allowed, maybe we were never modeled it, and so that line where we stop, I think, is kind of where mental health happens. Like, it's like, well, so I don't think I'm capable of that much energy moving through me, then there must be something wrong with me.
Well, you said that, as children, we are not allowed to be that deeply connected to our own internal states. There are rules about that are, it's not polite, or it's offensive to other people, or it's going to hurt somebody's feelings, or whatever it happens to be. So not only are we not allowed, we're actually punished when we do it. So we learn very quickly, don't go there. Because if we go there, the consequences of the pain of going there get added to what's actually causing the expression to emerge from the body to begin with. Mm-hmm. So and you're dealing with this when you're 3, 4, 5 years old. By the time you're 6, you know the rules. Yeah. You know how to function in polite society. So this idea that over the decades of working with all these people, so many times, as the intensity of the wave of the intelligence in their own bodies would rise up, the fear would be like, oh my God, like, and the fear of the other people in the room. Is she going to lose control? Is she going to, hurt herself? Is she going to hurt somebody else in the room? And all that was ever required was a calm voice and an approaching physical presence that they were comfortable with, so that they knew that in the moment of allowing that experience to move through their bodies, to not be caught in the container of their body, that they were going to be safe. And it all boils down to safety. Is the essence of my being safe?
Mm-hmm.
If the full emergence of the volcano that you are were to come alive, are you, the volcano, safe? And are those in the context of your experience safe?
Yeah.
So, if we use the Hawaiian people as an example, they can tell when the volcano has a burp. So they just get out of the way. But they don't try to stop the volcano from burping, right?
Yeah. Cleaning house.
Yeah. There's this, there's a Substack, I don't know what you call those blogs. Is that what Substack is? Okay. It's called Simply Sarah. And it's a young woman that I've been working with for a long time, and who's really emerged magnificently. And a few years ago, she adopted a young girl who at the time I think was 8.
I know Sarah.
Yes. So had been the little girl by the age of 8 had been deemed unadoptable, imagine, and had such trauma in her history that generally speaking, no one could manage her. And Sarah's relationship with her is built on Sarah's commitment to owning her own internal cues, and in so doing, modeling to her daughter how to do that for herself. And her daughter is now 10, and the officials in their lives, the social services and all that stuff, are amazed at who this little girl has become. So when your daughter has, quote unquote, a temper tantrum, right? When your daughter, quote unquote, overreacts, these are all experiences of a child in a child's body learning to trust their own body, learning to trust the natural, innate genius that they carry, and to be able to surrender to that genius.
Yeah.
Which means you don't slow things down, and you don't try and have a whole bunch of words, and you don't try and understand it, and you don't try and analyze it, and you don't give it a reason. You just allow it to emerge into the tissue of the body and let the body do the work. Yeah. And the outcomes are magic, really.
Pure magic.
Yeah.
I mean, just like with when I went through that, it gave me my life back.
Yeah.
Like
that fast.
Yeah. Like that. Like, oh. And there was always an intuition that this can't be it. Like, there's got to be more. But we're just not taught about the body's capacity and its role in the expression and manifestation and creation of like who we are. Everything's so much faster. And I love that so much, that story about Sarah, and what a gift for that little girl to be able to be witnessed at such a young age.
Well, the alternative is try to control her.
Yeah.
And the consequences are of control. For any child, but particularly giving her history, are more trauma.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we think we're going to get wholeness out of increasingly seeking to fracture our children's capacity to be authentic. Right?
Yeah.
So what has basically happened with Sarah and her daughter is her daughter is learning to be authentic, and in that authenticity, finding safety that's where it is.
Yeah.
So it's in her being able to say no to something and having an adult give her permission to say no.
That's incredible. Wow. So to me, it sounds like it's the only journey to take is back home to the body, through the body. So let's take it a little further. So someone has done this work for a while, and that first wave of healing is quite dramatic often. There's the clenching of the body, maybe even the hands go into like a little claw. There's the shaking, there's the crying, there's the fear, there's the tears. Then the next one's a little less, little less, little less. And then someone who has been using their body as the main processor of energy comes to a place where something changes, right? Like something shifts, and now it's almost like the choices come from a different place. And I think I want to go back to that void that you talked about earlier, because something for me lately has been shifting around that space that I call the impersonal space, like that impersonal space that's like through my body, but beyond my body, which when you were talking earlier, I kind of felt it as the void, but you can maybe clarify a little more. And that feels to me like a new place from which to choose, as opposed to checking in the way that it used to be. So, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. To give you hope.
Okay.
There are those for whom their first experience is not that.
Okay.
Not that actually their first experience is that for the first time, sometime in decades, they exhale.
Whoa.
That over time our bodies become so tense that we inhale and hold our breath. And inhale and hold our breath, and we become agitated, and blood pressure goes up, and we get headaches, and we become stress eaters, or we drink, or whatever it happens to be. But the metaphor of the exhalation is revealing the inside of me to the outside world.
Wow.
It is a metaphor for the emergence of authentic presence actually presenting itself into a physical world to be witnessed.
It's an expression.
Yeah. And that simple exhalation actually collapses the body. So with the exhalation often will come instant exhaustion, because people have been bracing against their own fatigue for so long to be in performance mode. Sometimes what comes are quiet, soft tears, like they've just been released from a long-term stay in a penitentiary. Like they've been hostage to something for so long. It's the equivalent of being freed and feeling the sun on your face. For other people, depending on how much trauma they carry in their bodies from their histories, and the degree to which the intellect is fighting the body, that's where you'll get a lot of body response. What you're witnessing there is the battle between the intellect and the body, and the intellect's deep commitment to controlling the body, and the body's deep commitment to wholeness and healing. And it plays itself out for all to witness, and it'll play itself out for days. So it doesn't have to. And the measure of the degree to which it's required is one of safety. So the safer you feel in the experience, the safer you feel in your environment, the safer you feel with the people with whom you're sharing the moment, the faster the process goes. But it's just to let you know, you don't have to roll around on the floor in agony for days. But, if you want to, I'm okay. I'll stay. Like, I'm not going to leave you there. But there are people who choose the hard way because that is all they know.
Yeah.
And engaging it and being encouraged through time to consider something else, like take a breath, they realize that it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
Because the body is actually designed to move massive amounts of intelligence in the blink of an eye, literally in a breath. Your life can change in a breath. So I find your interest, your line of inquiry, very interesting to me as well, because what I've noticed, and again here, what we're talking about is probably the deepest intimacy we will ever know, which is intimacy with ourselves. That we come to know not just who we are, not our personalities and our characters and our stories and our histories and whatever, but we come to know what we are. And that introduces the conversation around divinity. And as the body empties and clears, and I don't mean gets rid of stuff, I mean digests and metabolize it, because if it weren't useful, it wouldn't be there. So it's not trying to get rid of it. It's really embracing it and relaxing into it and allowing it to integrate and be moved through the neural structures of the body and transform who I am by virtue of that. As those things take place, I become something very different. So the inquiry is not who I am, it becomes what I am. What am I?
Yeah.
And that whole line of inquiry from the code model perspective and logical levels of thinking, that is a conversation that takes place above the choice point. So it's no longer a conversation about here I am and what choices am I going to make. It goes above that and opens a line of inquiry that basically says, who do I choose to become? And then based on who I'm choosing to become, what then presents as a process of choice for me? So I move through my world choosing as a living God force. Because I know that I am not the device. I know my physical body is a membrane. And I know that what moves through the membrane is an expression of the divinity that I am. And something really interesting happens when we become aware of that what we are is an expression of divinity through tissue into a world of matter. So many things don't matter anymore. We stop paying attention to things that in the past we would have, been very strident about committing to or having to handle or whatever it happens to be. And we come to a point where we look at it and we take a breath and go next. Like it is not relevant to the immensity of the creation for which I exist.
Yeah.
So when you and I show up in tissue, when we actually are the spark that animates a physical body and a child is born, we come here having left divinity. We left wholeness. We left the void. We left the sea of consciousness of which we are an expression. And for whatever reason, we looked kind of like peeked over the top and saw this world down here and thought, if I go down there and I X, whatever X it is, it's going to be an adventure. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to grow and discover and expand. I think I'm going to do this. Looks like fun. Mm-hmm. And then we arrive in a physical body and we forget. So part of the journey back to our own divinity is the journey of freeing the body to fully do what it's designed to do, which is that membrane between a world of energy and our divinity and a world of matter. And that manifestation is a byproduct of the rapid exchange of information between the void and a world of matter. So if I don't slow that process down with all kinds of stories about it, things happen really fast.
Very fast.
And then at some point in time, like you in your life, having done the wonderful things you've done, we all still come to a point at some place and we ask ourselves, like, is this it? Like, what else am I supposed to be doing here? Like, how is the presence of my divinity mattering here? So the expression of my divinity, which is part of the same whole as yours, the expression of my divinity, it just wears this suit. Your divinity wears that suit. At some point, we look at that and we say, okay, like, am I done? I'm too young to be done.
Yeah, and the device feels flowy.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yes.
Chaos doesn't bring, too much suffering.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I love that you pinpoint that.
Right. So I started, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now, I started because I wanted the conversation. Like you have these because you want this conversation, right?
100%.
So I started this series of conversations once a month for 4 hours, and it was called Navigating Chaos. And what we did is we looked at all the things that we have to come face to face with when we're seeking to navigate chaos. And boundaries are a part of that, and all kinds of things. And then I realized at the end of the year last year that wasn't the conversation that was relevant for me anymore. The conversation was not about how to navigate chaos, because that language, navigating chaos, presupposes the chaos exists out there somewhere, right, and I have to figure out how to get my way through it. And so what I'm looking at are all the potential barriers to getting through it.
Yeah.
And I realized the conversation, given what's going on in the world, the conversation that I think is far more powerful is, how do I navigate my capital S self, my reality, my life, for emergence? So that's very different language. And the intention behind it is that I don't care what's going on out there. How many billion people on the planet? That's how many realities there are.
Yeah.
I'm not focusing my attention on navigating somebody else's reality. So I look at that and I go, okay, how do I navigate for emergence no matter what? So one of the conversations that we had, it was a recognition that, how do we do this? Focus plus, Focus plus force equals magic.
Mm-hmm.
So focus is intention, and the equals magic part is the outcome, mm-hmm, and the force part is the bridge between the two. Mm-hmm. So how do I now navigate for the emergence of my intention no matter what somebody else's reality is doing? So what do I have to say yes to, even though it scares me? What do I have to let go of, even though, oh my God, it's worked so well, like, I don't want to let go. This is like my charter yacht, this thing. And it no longer relates to the intention. So what do I have to let go of? And I am not dissuaded from the clarity of my own intention,
which is to navigate from emergence.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And to navigate from a trust in magic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you have to, long ago, Lynn Andrews did the power deck, and she has one of the cards in the power deck, which I love. I've been using them forever.
I've been using them since you introduced them to me.
That was a long time ago.
Yep.
One of the first line, there's a card there called Magic, and the first line is on the back of the card is, your life will not be magical if you do not believe in magic. Duh. Mm-hmm. Right? and how powerful that statement is. And that's part of the whole emergence conversation. But the level of trust that I have to have in the constant presence of the signal that I am in the world. So the constant expression of the divinity that permeates the tissue of this membrane, I have to trust that it's always there.
Yeah.
Which means that when something moves in my body, I look at everything that moves in my body as an incoming message from the big giant head.
Yeah.
If it's presenting and it's moving in my body, it's intelligent, and it's there for me to pay attention to because it has some relevance to the intention that I carry and the moment that I'm living in. So there's a level of trust there that I think becomes that trust in my own body, but also the trust in the definition of what I hold myself to be.
Yes.
If I'm a living God force and something moves in my body and I know that that's a transmission from my divinity, why would I be afraid of that?
Yeah.
Why would I second guess that? Why would I try to shut that down? So all I have to do is relax, breathe into the wave that's moving in my body, let go, and it moves in 30 seconds, 30 minutes, whatever it takes. And at the end of it, I know something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I know because I figured it out.
Yeah.
I know what I know because the wave of energy / intelligence has already transformed my body. It's already altered the device of my body. And so I now look at the world through different eyes and I make different choices. But that's a very different place to stand than, the thing that I need to rely on is my intellect and analysis and logic. The thing that I trust completely, literally with my life is my body.
Yeah. And, even in the decoding of what happens in the body, the intellect gets in the way. And so there's always this return to that place of emergence and divine as what you are, to be that choice point moment to moment. And then the body does what it needs to do with that. Then
Yes.
insights come. And so to me, that is such an antidote to the anxiety that people are feeling right now with everything happening in the world, because it's not about doing all the things. It's about doing what's yours to do. And what's yours to do is what is true and present in your body as you emerge conscious in this conscious, progression of yourself, moment to moment. It is so simple, yet, the intellect is strong. Those we brace. And you talked about earlier about the difference between different types of personality on how they experience that first wave. And I, being Capricorn type A, super driven, safety was my intellect. And so I'm not surprised that it felt super dramatic for me. And I had the belief even 10 years after that it has to be hard for me. It can't be ease and grace, that I only learn with intensity. And so I let that go because it can be quite graceful, and easy and quite fun. It just, in the program room, when I start to notice that undulation in the body is moving and prepping, and there's a big smile on my face and there's terror in their eyes, but this is a true joy in knowing the freedom that is unfolding and that is taking place and taking more space in someone's body. Is just so beautiful.
Well, I also think it gives us an example. It gives us an experience of trust, because trust is a nominalization, right? It's a label that we put on something that is actually a reflection of an internal state. You can't put a pound of trust in the trunk of your car. So when you discover that you can give yourself permission to completely trust the device of your own body, that it is sourced from your divinity, that the intelligence that is flowing through it and causing the ripples and the waves and the things that are going on, that there's nothing for you to be afraid of. That is your divinity talking to you. Then you just kind of let your intellect get out of the way and let the body do what it's designed to do, and only it can do. And here's the interesting thing as well, that your body can only exist in the now. So you can tell stories about the past and you can tell stories about the future, and your intellect and language can travel along a continuum of time, but your body is always in the now, and then this now, and then this now, and this now, and does not require language and does not require intellect. And when you surrender to the body in the now as the wave is moving, it's a transformational moment. And I've seen it, I don't know how many times in the 30 some odd years I've been doing this. And every time it moves those who witness it, moves them to tears, because they know that in their own bodies. And most people are brought up and cut off from it.
Yeah, it's like watching the birth of a soul. It's like watching someone birthing their soul.
Yes.
And then there's that recognition of I have that capacity as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere in the radio show episodes that I did a million years ago, I did one with Sheila and a small group of people, and we were talking about code model coaching, and we really were talking about it as midwifery for the birthing soul, because there is a quality of emergence that is tangible. Like, it's not an esoteric theoretical thing. Like, you can actually, it's like you can see the energy expand around the body, and then the body opens into that. But first, you have to free that from the confines on the constriction of go here, go there, do this, do that. This is what a good person is. This is what a bad person is. And especially for women, like, don't ever raise your voice, and, sit properly, and don't let people see you like shaking uncontrollably, right? Because they'll think you're crazy, or whatever the stupid stuff is that we do. Yeah. Life altering, really.
Life altering. And I've been privileged to witness it in the program room, and the physical manifestation to me, like, I've noticed it as an undulation, almost like as of the ripple, like waves, like little waves, and then this like almost disappearing of the person, and then into that new emergence.
Yes.
It's quite miraculous, and we all capable of it. That's the beauty. Like, we all have this capacity. It's just about the safety and the permission, and then sitting back to allow and learning how to trust that our body can take it, that we actually can handle it. And that, how many times do we hear, like, I don't think I can, my heart's going to stop, or I'm going to hurt myself. Well, you can't really hurt yourself with breath. Like,
right. Yeah.
You have to work really hard at that. Like, so I want to ask you a question on this topic. And, as we're wrapping up our conversation, I think it's from NLP, but you used to say this line, that there was no content worth knowing. And I love that, because the context for that has changed for me over and over and over again, what it means. And now with this impersonal, I call it impersonal space, I think it is that intimacy with that emergence that you're talking about. How does that relate to where you're at right now in your life? This idea of, in the content that is worth knowing, there's actually no content. And how is that related to the context in which you find yourself now? Super abstract question for you.
Very interesting. I mean, I appreciate the question because it's a great question that really reflects back to me where I am in my own journey of evolution. Because over time, I mean, I spent 30 years being in the program room and writing and blogging and recording and coaching and doing all kinds of stuff. And as I shared a while back on my blog, I am, at the end of the year, I'm out. Like, I'm no longer involved with the Institute or the programs or any of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And interestingly, about mid-December, I got sick. Now, I never get sick.
True.
And everything was throaten up. And I literally did not get out of bed for 5 days. I drank water, but I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. I was completely, literally disappearing. I could feel myself fading, and every now and then I would notice I wasn't breathing.
Wow.
So I would take this little quick inhale, and then I wouldn't breathe. And I could almost feel myself detaching from my physicality. And then one day, one of my daughter-in-law called me, and she said, blah blah yada yada, and I said, no, I'm good. Like, it'll pass. She said, okay, well, that's fine, but I'll be there in 30 minutes, so get dressed. So she came, and I wasn't even thinking straight. Like, I wasn't conscious of what was going on. Anyway, long story made short, 24 hours later, antibiotics changed my life. But what happened was I became so aware of I had no sense of identity at all.
Wow.
So I had no content in my life that was relevant to how my life would be lived. So I was leaving the Institute. Stella is taking over the Institute. Stella is magnificent and will be an amazing contributor to the ongoing evolution of this. No more programs, no more books, no more coaching, no more all that stuff. And at some level, I was done.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have grandsons. I have these little children in my life, and I have wonderful sons that I enormously admire and respect, and I wasn't willing to let go. So moving beyond that, like moving now into 2025 and finding the intelligence to continue to engage and to continue to evolve literally has no content for me. So I could not tell you what that is going to be. I can tell you this conversation lights me up. I can tell you that the conversation around navigating for emergence lights me up. So I know there'll be one at the end of this month, but will there be one next month? I don't know.
Yeah.
I could continue to live here, and there are rumblings in my family about a move to Alberta. I don't know. But the trust that I have in the source of the signal of my being here is unequivocal. I think the process in December was to kind of like, pay attention, because this is how you go.
Yeah.
This is how you detach from, and it wasn't complicated, really. I think it would have been quite simple to continue along that line. But the quote unquote intrusion of my daughter-in-law brought in a layer of potential that I could not bring in myself at that time.
Huh.
So never have either of my daughters-in-law done that. Never have they imposed themselves in my life like that.
Wow.
And she just said, great, but I'm coming. And she has a key to get into my apartment and all that stuff. So I take direction really well without having to understand any of it. I take direction as my body moves and shifts and navigates for me to that emergence. But what does the rest of the year look like? I don't know. Things are moving faster. I'm mindful of that.
Yeah.
And in my lifetime, like you, my life has been about contributing to the lives of others as a gateway for my own evolution. That is what allowed me to live the kind of life that I live today. But I don't know if I'll ever do that again. So then the question becomes, is it enough for me to be here and just enjoy my divinity in a breath? I don't know. Like that, everything inside of me says you have to create and be purposeful and make a difference and create transformation and all of that stuff. Man, I don't know anymore. Not so sure. I love hanging out with my grandsons.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun.
Well, they're trouble, the two of them. So I relate well to that.
Fiery. Was moved by that. There was something about the insertion of your daughter-in-law coming over that felt almost like something new there, with the allowing love in some way. Yeah, I had a similar experience in February, without the saying yes, even after saying no a couple times, saying yes to that invitation. I don't think I would have been able to go where I needed to go. And so to me, that is new. So I love that you shared that so much. What is that? It's like it's not a co-creation. It's I don't know.
Well, it's very interesting because I look at that now in retrospect, because now I can tell a story about it.
Yeah.
Right. But in the moment of living it, there was no story. There was just living it. And she was here and I was in her car and we were at the emergency and she was like there the whole time that I was there. But I look at that and so the story that I can tell about that is that her appearance in that way, because you've known me a long time and people don't tell me what to do.
No.
I don't respond well to other people's directives. And it never occurred to me to question any of it. And it was almost as if she was the personification of my divinity talking to me.
Oh, wow.
And it was like my quote unquote divinity saying to me, you don't have to know what tomorrow is going to be. You just have to choose whether you're going to stay or go.
And we love you. Like, I love you. I love me. Like, love is there. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so with that is enough.
Right. And then the question becomes like, and again, my life is not that different from yours. Having lived my life as an intentional gateway for the evolution of others, is it okay for me to not make a difference?
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to just, because I'm really noticing, like, I love having nothing to do. I've had something to do for, I don't know, I had my first job when I was 14. So I've had something to do for a very long time in my life. And the question then becomes, is it okay for me to just get up when I wake up? And, I have these wonderful little, with a woman who's become a friend, that we have what we call coffee together. She lives in Nova Scotia, I live here. So in the morning I get up, make my coffee whenever that is. I open email, there she is. I read her email, I respond. She's at the other end having coffee sometime, opening that email. And so we have this thing that goes on back and forth. And it's wonderful. And it's always interesting. And it's always filled with capital L life, filled with potential. It really, for a person whose life has been defined by purpose and contribution, like being in service in some way. And I don't mean that in in a quasi-religious way. I mean, shaping realities, right? I think people who are in service to themselves and to others are reshaping realities. And is it okay for me not to reshape anything, right? To just enjoy the smell of my morning coffee and have lunch with a friend who brings me flowers and, just periodically blog when I move to do so, when I feel something compelling. But is that enough? And I don't know, stay tuned. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if this conversation is any indication on how you're showing up now on the other side of that death and rebirth, you definitely have a great impact. You've had a great impact on me today. I know that our listeners will be changed regardless that was the intention or not. I think that's, for me, that's the wisdom of what you just shared, is that in the letting go of the thing you do, that might
Yeah.
actually be even better, even stronger.
Yeah. Well, the thing that when I did the decloaking audio material, I recorded it specifically with the intention of having it be the best of everything that I could offer, so that it would offer its own trajectory. It would be its own gateway. And now I find that I'm in the process of working with my wonderful web person to really develop a presence on Substack that is not connected to anything from my past. And really, there are things that are going on in the world that I know will shape my grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Some of those things I'm not happy about. And I typically don't spend a lot of time focused on that. But I'm finding lately there's an intense response in my body. Mm. So the Substack blog may be an outlet for that. I don't really know, because I'm making it up as I go along. All I know for now is that I'm willing to wake up in the morning. So, and it's not because I'm suicidal or anything. No. I don't feel that way. It's just really a profound shift in identity.
Yeah.
You're a young woman and you've accomplished a great deal in a very short time in your life. And the question becomes, and I don't know what the answer is for you, but the question becomes, how much of your life do you want to continue to keep doing what you know you've already done well? Right? Like, where's the evolution for you? Where's the discovery and the excitement and where are the challenges that rock you to your core? Yeah. And I know that's what I was finding, that this challenge of letting go of what I created have been a part of for 35 years was rocking me to my core.
Yeah.
So with help from my daughter-in-law, I, came to a different place, but I'm still in it. Yeah. And I still don't know I don't know that it has an answer, but if it has one, it's eluding me.
It's almost like just living in the question completely now and forever. The letting go of beautiful things, I think, has been big for me. And so I think the way you described it is it can be meaningful and beautiful, yet it's time to let it go. Like, that is different than letting go of something that doesn't serve you or you don't like. It's like, hey, this is everything I've ever wanted, and now it's time for it to go. It's quite the practice. Thank you for that question. I'm gonna it brings me right up to my edge, and I appreciate that very much. That's why I love you so much. So appreciate you being in conversation with me today, Louise.
My pleasure. Really.
I want to thank you again, for how profoundly you've impacted my life. And I think that there was this part of me that I allowed myself to explore, because you showed me that it was possible, and that you showed me that it was not only real, but it was exciting and it was fun and it was meaningful and it was a really great way to live. And I, yeah, you brought that to my into my life, and I'm just really grateful for you and your willingness to go into these big conversation. It's my very favorite thing to do, and I definitely owe a lot to you.
Well, and I'm going to be 75 in August, so I can tell you that at 75, it's still a great way to live.
Good. That's good to know.
Incentive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for being willing to just talk about whatever shows up. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Louise. I appreciate you.
Good to see you.
On the street, they say that you don't care about me anymore, but you know it's in the way they walk, in the way they talk. I don't believe a thing, I don't believe a thing they say. You know I love you anyway, anytime, any place. You mean the world to me, you mean everything to me. That's why I say